There are only three types of people in Donald Trump's administration: the criminals, the grifters, and of course the combination criminal grifters. And while Donald Trump leads by example in that regard, he's not the only person doing so, not the only person profiting off of their position, because Carolyn Leavitt, while she has certainly spent her time in the White House lying about Donald Trump's crimes and helping to cover them up, that wasn't the beginning of her criminality. No, it started much earlier in her political career, and it is all coming up in a report that is leading to a legal bombshell for Carolyn Leavitt and completely screwing her. We are going to get into it all, but before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button, because it goes a long way in supporting our work. Now, before we get into Leavitt's criminal past and how it is blowing up in her face right now, I want to start with another lie about the grift that Donald Trump carries out every single day and the type of criminality that this administration engages in that Leavitt was trying to cover up for when talking about a creative solution right here.
It's delayed and canceled. Air traffic controllers, TSA agents continue to work without pay. The president tapped into tariff revenue to keep WIC money for women and infants and children going out the door. The president found a creative solution to keep the troops paid. And rather than congratulate the president for doing that, this unprecedented action to get our troops paid, the Democrats want to sue him for it. They're saying that it's illegal. This just shows they don't care about the people who are hurting. They are shutting down the government purely for partisan politics because they don't like Donald Trump.
Just so we're clear, the creative solution that Carolyn Leavitt is talking about with regards to a private citizen paying, but is it like technically owning the U.S. military, which is an incredibly scary thought as Donald Trump puts his own Gestapo on the streets and they're carrying out whatever mission he directs in the late night truth social bleed. But what Carolyn Leavitt is doing right now, this lie that she is telling, praising Donald Trump, is a part of this really scary circle. And we're going to get into the criminality that was broken down by Senator Murphy of why this is really scary. But I think we have to start with this. And it's important to the larger legal problem that Carolyn Leavitt got herself into that we're going to take a look at. But Donald Trump caused this shutdown. This is his fault. So him finding a creative solution isn't something he should get credit for. Donald Trump caused the problem. There are bread lines essentially all across America, troops and families across the country going to food banks because of Donald Trump, because of the Republican shutdown. So the idea that Trump found a creative solution, and instead of like presenting this as the truth, that Donald Trump is covering his ass because once again he is screwing over Americans, is just ridiculous to me. But on the substance of the actual criminality here, before we get into Leavitt's dark past, I want to start with the dark present of what Trump is trying to do.
The New York Times reported that the private donor who gave President Trump $130 million to pay U.S. troops during the shutdown, that he is billionaire Timothy Mellon, and the donation appears to violate federal law. But what do you say to Americans who look at that and think it's President Trump, not Democrats, making sure that troops get paid?
Well, I think one of the reasons that President Trump is refusing to negotiate is because he likes the fact that the government is closed, because he thinks he can exercise king-like powers. He can open up the parts of the government that he wants. He can pay the employees who are loyal to him. I mean, this is a leader who is trying to transition our government from a democracy to something much closer to a totalitarian state. And so this is part of what happens in totalitarian states. The leader, the regime only decides what things get funded and what don't, often in coordination with their oligarch friends. So I just don't want to live in a world in which Donald Trump and a handful of billionaires decide which part of government works and which don't.
I think that it's important that we keep Donald Trump's desire for a change in the perception of our military front of mind all the time. Whether we're talking about ICE, the National Guard, anyone else that Donald Trump is sending after his political opponents or sending to blue cities to wreak havoc, Donald Trump doesn't want you to think that the military serves us anymore, that they're not there to protect us. Donald Trump wants you to think that the military is quite literally a wholly owned subsidiary of his administration, that they pledge allegiance to Donald Trump, that their oath is to whoever can buy them off temporarily, it seems like. So this isn't just a criminal action, of which there are many. But it is a fundamental shift. It's part of this larger shift of what Donald Trump wants to do when it comes to the military, because he wants to abuse our government in whatever way he sees fit. And of course, again, he's not the only one, because Carolyn Leavitt has done just that in her dark and criminal political past, which is coming up again recently after some quarterly reports in this article right here. Carolyn Leavitt's campaign didn't pay its debt last quarter, including overdue refunds. Leavitt's old congressional campaign reported more than $326,000 in debt, most of which is refunds for illegal excessive donations. White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt's old congressional campaign failed to pay down any of its outstanding debt last quarter, which includes more than $210,000 in refunds for illegal excessive campaign donations, according to the most recent report filed with the Federal Election Commission. Leavitt's campaign reported $326,000 in debt as of September 30th, a balance that hasn't changed since her campaign first disclosed the debt in January after years of failing to disclose any debt as first reported by Notice. The liberal End Citizens United filed a complaint with the FEC in November 2022, alleging Leavitt's campaign accepted and failed to refund the excessive contributions. But the independent agency has reportedly not ruled on the case and likely won't anytime soon. The FEC is effectively shut down, lacking enough commissioners to execute high-level duties or even carry out basic administrative functions like setting and canceling open meetings. Donald Trump must nominate and the Senate must confirm at least 2 new commissioners before the body can take action. Leavitt's campaign is also in debt with several vendors, including $41,000 to Remington Research Group for polling and more than $46,000 to Axiom Strategies for printed materials, travel, and consulting. So Carolyn Leavitt is a crook and was a crook during her campaign. That should come as a shock to no one. But it is also important to recognize why she's been able to get away with this, not just because our campaign finance system at large in America is broken, but because Donald Trump is stalling funding and allowing the agency that would hold Leavitt accountable to actually work. That is so much of what's happening in the government shutdown right now. Not only Donald Trump leveraging breaking the government to his own benefit, but leveraging our position on what the government does, our perception of what the government does. Donald Trump wants you to be just as traumatized as Russ Vought wants to make federal workers. He wants you to think that what the White House is supposed to do is put money in Donald Trump's pockets, carry out what makes him happy, right? Suck up to Donald Trump's ego, build him a new ballroom, and focus on the billionaires. That they are going to let food stamps for 40 million Americans go unfunded. Literally have people starving because Donald Trump wants to protect his criminal buddies, including his press secretary, and have her at the same time get paid a salary to go lie, call Democrats domestic terrorists, say that Trump knew nothing about Epstein, say that he's doing a great job keeping us all safe and protected. Meanwhile, flights can't land or take off at LAX because when planes in America aren't crashing from out of the sky, there is no TSA agents to make sure you can safely get through security, and there's no air traffic controllers, again, because Donald Trump is in a war with the idea that government works for you. Fundamentally, that is what this administration is after. They are determined to chip away from not only our ability to be an engaged citizenry. Why do you think they want to shut down museums? Why do you think they want to own media outlets, which we will get to later? It's because they want us to feel separate from the government. It's the reason I wanted to start with Carolyn Leavitt's lie about the military. They want us to think that that's Donald Trump's. That Donald Trump, the guy who wanted troops to fire at peaceful protesters in his first term and is now getting that wish, that he owns the military, that it's not ours. That's what he wants. This is all about Trump. And while this is happening, while people are starving, while people are waiting at food banks, while all hell is breaking loose in our country, what is Donald Trump's top priority according to that criminal press secretary? The ballroom. The ballroom. And the only good thing I've heard about this ballroom, which you'll get a little chuckle out of, came from Senator Ruben Gallego right here. But I think it's an important message to take with us on a lot of stuff. So let's check it out.
Would you agree with that any Democrat who becomes the next president, if and when that were to happen, they should tear down whatever changes Trump makes?
No, I think to really mess with him, just name it the Barack Obama ballroom, and I think that will take care of half the problem.
Whomever is president come January 20th, 2029, and it'll be a Democrat, unless we don't have elections, which seems more likely every day. And I don't want to be a crazy person. I don't want to be hair on fire. It's not hair on fire to say it seems less likely every day that we have elections. But really should put up the plaque that says the Barack Obama Nobel Peace Prize winning ballroom. I think that's a great idea. I don't have a problem with that. But demolishing it, I don't know. I'd like to see the East Wing rebuilt. I don't want anything to remind us of Donald Trump, except to remind us that we have to be in a constant fight against fascism. But it will be up to whatever Democrat is elected president. It will be up to a Democratic House, a Democratic Senate, to not play nice. I'm kind of tired of that shit. And one of the few people I've really seen go really hard at this is Eric Swalwell, who said, and this was in the wake of Jimmy Kimmel, like, lawyer the fuck up. Save your documents. Get ready to go to war. Like, lawyer up, because we're coming after you. And that needs to be the position. This isn't vengeful in the way that Donald Trump puts another 10% tariff on Canada because they play an ad that he doesn't like. This is fixing our country that's in a state of real spiritual crisis right now. And that's partly because of who controls what we see and what we hear and what we know. And then the greatest example of that, something that I have been screaming about because it's so important, is this clip on CBS this morning.
I want to ask you about something you said. You said Democrats, there are no election deniers on our side of the aisle. You said that back in January. But recently, you've been using the term rigged elections in reference to the upcoming midterms. Democrats were appalled when President Trump used language like that. How do you justify using that now? Doesn't that undermine faith for voters? You need to show up.
No, I've been using that term in the context of Donald Trump's unprecedented effort to gerrymander congressional maps in a partisan fashion all across the country.
Watch how the media is changing. Be skeptical of it and call it out. We are certainly going to on this show. If you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video. If you stuck around to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. I am sorry I was away for a couple of days. I was taking some time off. Had a little fun trip in Paris. I think I'm gonna maybe do a video about that. Let me know if you want to see that. But we are back. We're going to be fighting. So don't let them silence you. And until next time, I'll see you soon.